Okay, we're recording. Hello, Giovanna.
Hello, teacher.
Welcome.
Thanks. Só pra avisar, talvez eu tenha que, tipo, sair ali pelas 8h15, mas eu volto porque eu tenho que buscar minha mãe no yoga.
Oh, okay, no worries. It happens. Yeah, I'm not using my camera today because my internet is not so good. And then
Yeah.
because of that, it might happen, that I'm going to maybe disconnect sometimes. Hopefully not, right? But if it happens, then it happens, and then just wait, or I will. Anyways, if keep your eye there on Ava, because I might communicate with you through there, leave a message or something like that, right?
Okay.
That's fine. Sometimes we have these little problems. So what's the programming for today's class? So we're gonna have a little bit of a review about the textual function that we studied last week, right? Let's review some key concepts with some examples of texts and everything. Then after, we're going to work with some possible applications of this idea of textual function into especially writing, teaching writing. I'm going to show you a few links. I'm going to give you a few links for you to actually deal with and sort of like play a little bit with. I'm gonna provide the links for you now on the chat, and after I'm going to post a document with all the links that I have, so that you have them. I didn't have time to post because I was telling Patrick that my internet was not good, so I wasn't able to do that very well. Hello, Guilherme, welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Hello. So, but I will, everything that I show you now, I will post to you after the class. So you will have the material, right? And I will also, more towards, the end of the class, I will also talk to you about our 2 next evaluations, right? So next week, we would have our evaluation exercise, right? So what's going to happen is I will ask you to, you don't need to do the exercise online. I will be online, okay, available. So if you want to use the time of the class to do the exercise, go ahead. I will make the link with the questions available probably on Monday or Tuesday evening, but then I will send you a message on Ava telling you and giving you the link, right? And then if you don't have time during the week to do, you can use the time on Friday evening, as we won't have a class specifically, but we will have this time so that you can actually go ahead and do the exercise. And if you have any questions, we can go ahead and solve them right there, right? Because the idea is the assessment is going to be sort of like a procedure, okay? So I will let you know. I will post the link for you or send you by message either Monday or Tuesday, right? It depends on how fast I manage to do that, right? Okay, and then basically this is the plan for today, right? So I'm gonna start presenting my screen. Let me start here. I'm gonna play for you a little video, right? Just very fast. The music doesn't matter, right? I'm gonna play, and I'm gonna just for us to and let me know if there is any problem, but I think there won't be any problem. You don't need to listen to the sound because it's just a song, but I will stop and talk about what we see here, right? Just a little test. Can you see? Can you see the video?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. So, like I said, I was every now and then I'm gonna stop and rephrase and remind you about the textual function. Right. So, textual function has to do with the structure of the text and in what position do I put some elements in the text to give more focus or to give more prominence, right? So the first thing that we need to pay attention in a textual function is the theme of a clause, right? And it is usually the first element. And then here they say first element in the clause that takes part in transitivity, which means it is the first participant or process or circumstance, right? Because in functional grammar, systemic functional grammar, transitivity here is connected to the experiential function, the elements of the experiential function, which are exactly these, right? Hold on, I think there's someone asking permission. Hello, I imagine that it's Carol that entered.
Yes, it is. Hello.
Okay, hello. Your name is different, but I imagine that it was you because of the surname.
Oh, yes. Now I noticed
Okay.
that I entered with my dad's email, but I think
No
this is not a
worries.
problem. Is it?
It's not a problem. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. So I was telling you then that the theme, right? It is the point of departure of the message. It is the first element and that we're going to mention, and it has to do with the first participant or the first circumstance or the first process that we find, right? The most important theme. Right, so before oh my God, I'm having a problem here. I'm sorry, guys. So here, okay. So here, you have cats are mammals. So when the theme is the participant, or mornings are the best, the topical theme or the most important theme is the participant. It is very common that we view the theme as the same way as the usual morphosyntactic classification of subjects. But it is not only about the subjects, right? So when I have participants, it could be the case. But in these examples here, right, I don't have specifically the subject, but I have a circumstance. This is my theme, right? And here I have a process, a verb construction as the theme, right? Mhm. I'm going to go back a little bit here. A little bit more. Here. So, remember that last class, we also studied that we have the topical theme, which is the theme that is always going to be there. And that is I would say, the focus, right? Which is, again, the first participant or process or a circumstance. But we also have other kinds of theme that sometimes are present and sometimes are not. In this case, here, did is not part of the topical theme, but it is what we call the interpersonal theme, because the interpersonal themes are usually, they come before the topical theme, and they either mention the time when the action occurred, such as past, present, future, or they express some sort of modalization or opinion, modalization of obligation, prohibition, possibility, frequency, right? All of those modalizations we studied in the interpersonal function. So did here is an interpersonal theme. Here we have a similar case. She is my topical theme because it is the first participant that I see. However, before I have thankfully, it is my interpersonal theme, which is, again, a modalizer. I'm expressing my opinion. I'm giving, I'm positioning myself, right? Here you have, however, it disappeared, right? It is my first participant. So therefore my topical theme, but I have, however, which is a mechanism of connection, within the sentence. And when I have these connectors, these conjunctions, I have textual themes, because these are connectors that make the text flow in terms of coherence and cohesion. Hold on, people. Okay, now Carol came in with her name. Hi, Natalia. Hadn't seen you before. Let's just wait until she gets it. Okay. So here, you notice that you have, again, other examples, right? So J is the participant. Unexpectedly is an interpersonal theme, which is modalizing the idea, and which is talking about possibility. And however is a connector, is a conjunction, which is the textual theme, right? U here is the topical theme, the first participant. I have did as a marker of time, so it is my interpersonal theme. And this now here, even though it is sort of like talking about time here, this now is working much more as a conjunction, as in so, right? So it is my textual theme, right? And then here I have my circumstance as the topical theme, right? And therefore, my textual theme connecting to the previous idea. And then reminding you that everything that is not the theme is the rime. The rime is usually what's said about the theme. right? So I just wanted to, show you this brief video just to review a little bit of what we worked with last class, right? We also worked with something that was called thematic progression, right? Just let me go grab the presentation of last class just to remind you about that, right? And when we're talking about writing and we're talking about or speaking or thinking of the connections in theme between theme and rhyme, right? The thematic progression is where we see one of the most specific applications for this knowledge of what is theme and what is rhyme, because it is when we can evaluate if the text is flowing well, if the ideas are coherent, if they are making sense, right? So, for example, one kind of progression that is very common that we study, it is when we have one theme, then we have the rhyme, and then in the next clause, what was the first rhyme becomes the second theme, and so on, right? So communication is a process of transmitting a message. Message was part of the rhyme, and then it becomes the theme. The message can be delivered through oral or written expression, right? And then oral or written expression, I chose the rhyme written expression to continue talking, and it became my theme in the next part. Through writing, people can communicate without limitation of distance and time. So this is one kind of progression, right? That it's possible to find in texts. There are others when I have always the same theme that is actually returned to or referred to by pronouns, right? Or metaphors, expressions. So here I had Oprah Winfrey, and then after she, right, they used she to talk about Oprah Winfrey all the time, which is the same constant continuous theme. And then we also have theme progression with derived themes. When I have one theme that is sort of like the general one, the hyper theme, and then we have the other themes or the other, I would say, topics of the next clauses, all related to the first theme, right? So in which I talk about Ecuador, then the economy of Ecuador, more oil in Ecuador, bananas, coffee, and cocoa in Ecuador. So always returning to the original theme. These are just a few ways of mirroring thematic progression. There are other kinds of thematic progression that can be a little more complex as well, right? So to return, to refresh your memory about this, I'm going to show you this. This is from Introducing Functional Grammar's book, right? And I'd like you to take a look. This is a sort of like a recipe. Okay. I'm going to read it to you. And we're going to try to take a look at it together, right? So it's for mango salad. So peel the mango and cut into 1 centimeter cubes. In the bowl from which you will serve the salad, lightly beat the yogurt until creamy. Add the chili, salt, and sugar. Put the mango on top of the yogurt. Heat the oil in a little pan, and when hot, put in the mustard seeds. They will start popping within seconds. Immediately, put in the dried red chili. As it darkens, add the chopped shallots. Stir and fry until the shallot is just browned. Pour quickly over the bowl of mango and yogurt. I don't mix the salad together as it looks beautiful as is. The red chili and black mustard seeds glisten on top of the luscious golden mango, which is in turn set off by the creamy yogurt below. Right? So, sounds good. That is if you like mango, right? So you notice how here the topical themes are already marked, right? So the first process, peel, cut, in the bowl from which you will serve, blah, blah, blah. This is the topical theme with the circumstance, right? Add, put, heat, all processes, right? When hot, a circumstance. They, a participant. Immediately, right? A circumstance. As it darkens, also a circumstance. Stir, fry, right? Are topical themes for processes. The shallot, a participant. Another process, pour, participants. I, it, the red chili, right? And then which here is referring to the golden mango, so it's a participant as well, right? So all of these, all of this recipe has many kinds of topical themes, right? And it's very interesting. The recipe is exactly this. You know, we use a lot of themes that are actual processes and many times circumstances. So, for example, if you're working with your students on writing a procedural text such as a recipe, in this way, you could direct them into producing the text not only using processes, but you know, working with circumstances also, or even participants in the themes, right? So this is one example that we have here, right? So far, so good. The idea now until now is just to provide you with a little bit of a refreshment in your memory, okay?
Okay.
Right. Okay. No. Okay, I'm a little slow today. I need to organize my mind. Okay. So now I'd like to carry out a little bit of an exercise with you. So I'd like you to look at this text here, right? So this is a sample paper, writing sample paper from Cambridge FC examination, right? I'd like you to take a look, right? And I'd like you to examine the themes. I'm going to give you a few minutes for you. And I'd like you to examine the theme. You don't need to classify topical theme, interpersonal theme, textual theme. Don't worry about that, right? More or less, try to identify at least the theme, just the theme in general, and try to see if you think the text is well written in terms of thematic progression, right? If the thematic progression makes sense in this text. I'm going to give you a few minutes for you to try. Mm-hmm. Okay, Natalia, go ahead. I'm listening. Gonna do it this way because then
I could identify the fashion industry as the main theme, main topical theme,
mm-hmm.
and the others like clothes. What else?
Mm-hmm.
Clothes price.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe appearance as topical things, but less relevant, but are
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm
too many
actually
repetitions of them.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sort of like marking here all the topical themes, right? Mm-hmm. Hold. The appearance, person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, Natalia, yes, there's too much fashion industry. Yes. Yes, of course, right? This is something important. It's one of the things that even if you don't analyze like very deeply in terms of theme and rhyme, you notice that the person repeats fashion industry too much, right? And then if this is the intention, using the constant continuous theme, what would you say for a teacher, like if okay they're repeating the theme fashion industry many times exactly in the same way, what would you tell your student, that a student that is doing that, to do? How could you improve? Okay, the student wants to talk about the constant continuous theme in this is one of the possible thematic progressions used in this, not all the time, right? But what would you tell your student to improve this?
Perhaps you could suggest your students to use synonyms instead of the same words.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Synonyms, pronouns, metaphors, right? And things that would refer to the fashion industry without repeating it too much, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Other than that, right? We have a certain there isn't always the same thematic progression, but this is okay, right? You can't expect a text to always present a similar thematic progression all the time. This is not such a big problem, right? So the candidate starts with a circumstantial theme, right? And then what's the rhyme, right? The fashion industry had, then what was here? There is a linear progression, right? What was rhyme becomes theme here, right? And then you have some people claim that the fashion industry has a bad effect on people's lives. In here, the person actually shows the ability of referring to the same theme with a pronoun, right? And then here there's a new theme, right? The clothes price is extremely high, and people who can't afford it should not be in the society. This is a bit weird, right? The idea was not very well constructed, but anyways, it's a different kind of problem, right? But we noticed that there are some, even though the person repeated the fashion industry, the person has some consistency in the thematic progression of the text, right? Even though there is this repetition. right? But there is some consistency. It's not like the person, because a lot of times we get texts from students and then they start talking about one thing, then they go to another thing, then they go back to the same thing, and then go to another thing, and then the text is confused because there isn't this thematic progression that is more or less organized, right? So this is something that I always tell, teachers, that when we are analyzing and when we're evaluating writing, it is important to pay attention to this. Not only, of course, we're gonna pay attention to sometimes to maybe some grammar mistakes, right? Especially if they are little errors that students have already studied, right? Or the things that you are focusing. But for example, not only on mistakes or maybe vocabulary that was not so collocated, so well collocated, but I think you should add this to your evaluation of writing, but not only to evaluation, also on your teaching of writing, to help your students to see that the thematic, the theme and the rhyme has to flow, and in this case, if it was, in my opinion, this was the only criteria to evaluate, I would discount very little, because even though, okay, there is a repetition of theme here, but there is a linearity. It makes sense, right? The person is mentioning more or less the same themes. It is not like talking about many different themes at once. And another interesting, and I would say positive point of this piece of writing, are these words here, furthermore, in the other hand, right? In my opinion, the person is not only using simple topical themes, the person is using interpersonal themes and also textual themes. The usage of interpersonal and textual themes also makes the text more complex and more and richer as well, right? So I just wanted to show you this example because I think it is important that we work with our students, not only when we are talking about writing, for example. Don't pay attention only, did they write correctly, or okay, did they use a good range of vocabulary, did they use the correct punctuation, did they spell things correctly. Thematic progression should also be a criteria of evaluation of your students' evolution in writing. And then, of course, if you are evaluating, if you are assessing that, you should definitely work with that with them. And you don't need to work with the terminology theme and rhyme, right? Even though I think theme and rhyme is a terminology that sometimes it is more accessible than subject, right? Or other kinds of more morphosyntactic terminologies that tend to be a bit scary to students in general, right? So this is one of the, I would say, the tips that I would have. And then since we're working on, textual themes as well, it is very, very important that you, from even in beginning levels or even more advanced levels, that you actually work with your students with discourse markers or conjunctions, right? Even if like, for example, even with children, right? Teaching children to use the correct usage of and, but, so, which are very small connectors, but little by little, finding ways of teaching them, and showing them that and actually adds ideas, and then but usually contrasts to different ideas, and then so implies a cause or a consequence, actually helps children to develop that logical thinking that will help them write better in the future, right? And here, this is just an example, right? It is important to work with these discourse markers classifying for example, the function that they have, like which ones add information, which ones state a true fact, which ones indicate a time relationship, and so on, so on. And then working with this after, of course, getting students to apply these course markers into the text that maybe they produced before, right? Or getting them previous clauses and text so that they can attach the words to the meanings, functionally speaking, right? So it is also very important as teachers when we are working with writing that we give attention to conjunctions or discourse markers. And when I say these, not necessarily only in writing, but for example, when we are at higher levels, pre-intermediate on, when people are organizing their speaking, or they're going to, a lot of students that we have nowadays, are business students and want to prepare for giving presentations and so on, so on. Working with conjunctions and discourse markers is a way to make their presentations more connected, right? And you can associate, because working with conjunctions is to work with textual themes, right? And then, of course, adding the idea of thematic progression also makes that a lot richer, right? As a lot richer thing, right? The next thing that I would like to show you is a little bit of a tool. Like I said before, I'm gonna put this here for you on the chat so that you can access now. But I'm also going to ask you first to pay a little bit of attention, just so that I can show you how it's going to work. Can you see the screen? Yeah. This is a very nice site, and it's not only for your students, but even for you yourself. So, we can learn a lot about the structure of writing. And then if you want to use with some students who are a bit more, like for example, they're preparing to write something more specific, more formal. It's a very nice site, right? So here you have lots of steps, but then the first thing you have is a demonstration, right? And then there's a little bit of an activity. So read this list of sentences about healthcare research. They are not a paragraph, right? So they are not in order, okay? And then steps 2 to 6 will show how to make them into a clear paragraph. So they're sort of like all mixed out, right? I'll give you some time to read. And then after, if you didn't finish reading, no worries, because you're going to access the site. I'm going to give you a few minutes for you after to play a little bit with the site, right? But then you go for the next step, right? And then it goes, paragraph structure. See how the same sentences can be easier to read when they are organized into 3 functional stages. Click on the Start button below. So here they separated it's not yet in order, right? They were separated into 3 functional stages, right? 3 different parts of this text. And then here has clearer the idea for the theme and the reme. See how putting certain information at the beginning or end of each sentence creates clearer information flow. So you see, the information is kind of like repeated somehow, so that you, but it's not repeated in the same way, but in different ways, but always reminding the reader of what's being said, right? So for example, over the past 30 years, some very recent studies, research in the health arena, studies in healthcare. So psychologists, anthropologists, sociologists, all of them are psychological research, anthropological studies, sociological studies. So you see the themes and the remes, they sort of like are structured and reshaped. There's also a section on how related vocabulary. This is also very nice, right? So for example, research. If you click on it, you will see all the places where research and then synonyms or words that are similar to research have been used. If you focus on psychology or health, right? So it's a very interesting site to actually work with this kind of writing, right? So reference, see how words without content point or link to content words. So like the usage of pronouns to refer. So this area is referring to health arena. Such is referring to anthropological studies. These fields is referring to anthropologists, sociologists. So remember that one of the things that you said about that previous text we analyzed was the fact that the person kept repeating always like about the fashion industry and never really used these kinds of content words to to work with this. So this is something that you could work with your students, right? And then here with the textual theme, right? Connecting words, show different logical relations. So this is just one example of contrast, right? And then it's nice because you have paragraph structure, information structure, vocabulary reference, conjunction or logical relations. It's a very nice site, right? I'm going to ask you to go ahead, click on the link, and I'm going to give you like, 10 minutes for you to play around with it, right?
We stand in the same demonstration topic, isn't it?
Yeah, not necessarily. You can actually explore all the other topics if you want. No problems. You can redo and read, and or you can try to explore the other topics as well. It's just for you to know how it works, and then save the link. And again, I'm gonna post a little bit the links there for you on Ava after. But for you to to work more after when you have more time to explore, and perhaps even use with your students, right? But I'm still gonna I'm gonna give you some time to work with the link. So, for example, if you're here, another example here on the site, if you're here on this part, information structure, you will find that there are very, very clear examples of how theme and ream will work, right? So here you have the marking of all the themes, right? So recent social science research has carried out studies into unsupervised children's games. This was the theme, this was the ream, right? They call it new information. So this research, restarting the same theme, re-mentioning the same theme, has found out that such games have changed dramatically. And then recent studies, another way of researching to research. So recent studies into group games have shown significantly that some which have been played for centuries, even millennia in our culture, have all but disappeared. And one study tracing specific games found that today, no girls skipping games were played at all in Sydney, right? So you see lots of ways to reproduce the constant continuous theme, which has to do with recent social science research, right? So this is one example, right? And here you have another example, right, with similar topic with the children's games, right? So this is nice. This is a nice resource, not only for you, maybe to take a look and improve your ability to write, but also sometimes to show your students and to show them how the text is waived, right? And not only regarding theme and ream, but also many other topics here. You have vocabulary, and you have the textual themes, the relations, right? So it's I've used many times, this tool with lots of students, students who are seeking to write in a more, I would say, structured way in terms of more organized and more flowing, right? So it's a nice example for that. Did you manage to use the site? Did you manage to access the site?
Yes.
Okay. Had you ever used this?
No, actually, it was new to me, but it is
Mhm.
very interesting. I think, especially, I was like taking a look at some of these topics, especially for my TCC. We
Oh
have some
yeah.
very interesting suggestions here.
That's also another possible usage for that, for the people who are writing either TCC, or if you're writing another academic text for another subject. So it can also provide you some help as well. Okay, now I'd like to ask you a following question, right? And then I'm going to show you the next link, which is also, I'm going to also put here for you on the chat, and after you can explore a little bit. Not necessarily you have to be teaching to answer this question, right? You can think of like when you start teaching, or when you are a student, or when you become a teacher, or but imagine how would you how would you manage to assess or to evaluate your students' writing? What kinds of criteria would you take into consideration?
I think at first when we read something, we think about rhythm, and it's not something very theoretical that we do like automatically, but we do.
Right.
Of course.
Any other criteria that anyone else or? Okay, so sometimes we are out of criteria, and we are sort of like, we don't know. Okay, but because of course we can always evaluate a writing task only towards grammatical accuracy and correct usage of vocabulary. But then you're not really evaluating writing, you're evaluating sentences. And then writing is much more than that, right? It's like using the thematic progression, like I said. It is also sticking to the point, right? So this is a site that it's also very interesting, even though this is a site that is designed mostly for it is for ESL, English as a second language, but still, right, supporting English language learners. You can use this more or less as sort of like a helper, or perhaps what kinds of criteria can I adopt to evaluate my students' writing, right? And so, for example, here, of course, you have the grades, right? Like this has to do with the grades of children, like grade 1, like very young children, grade 2, grade 3, and then so on. It goes up to grade 12, right? So it would be like sort of like 12 12 grades, like each one corresponding more or less to a year, and then you have the levels, right? But what's nice about the site is the following. I'm gonna just show you. So here you have, let me just improve the zoom here. Here you have like a student writing sample. You can also view it originally here, right, as a full size. But then, of course, here is the text, right? So you have Mr. Parsons, Jordan, and Amir went after school to get the bus. They were late because they were at core. They hurried to catch the bus. Oh no, said Amir. We missed the bus. When Mr. Parsons yelled to the bus driver, the bus was too loud. So the bus driver didn't hear them calling. The little girl cried because she was sad and that she missed the bus, right? So here you're going to check what are, for example, the benchmark, the linguistic benchmarks, right? So, for example, linguistic vocabulary. So here it gives you an idea. Uses a range of words and synonyms, right? So level 4 and level 5. So it's a good range of linguistic vocabulary. Grammar, right? So look, controls, demonstrates control of word order, right? Plurals, tense, right? Writes a range of grammatical structures. Oops, sorry. Right? So this is nice because sometimes we don't know what to compare our writing, the students of our, the writing of our students or our students' writing. We don't know how to compare it to something, and we don't know if it is okay or if it isn't. So taking a look at this site is a good, a nice thing, you know, because you could see more or less, and this is sort of like an ability around the world. Like I said, it is English as a second language also, so a bit different from our scenario, but perhaps it could be a site that you could use, right, to compare, right, to actually help you look at what other students have created and then sort of like create your criteria, your own criteria to you know, evaluate your students' texts, right? So this is another resource that I thought it would be interesting to share with you. And then, of course, this is something that you need time to take a look, to check, but it is also very important, right? Another thing that I think it is very important when you work with writing, you know, evaluating writing and evaluating your students' writing. And this is something that I would like you to read more thoroughly at home. Hold on. I'm also going to share the link here with you. It's like a little article, right? Even though the site is not no longer maintained, but it still works in terms of you can read, right, the article. But David Knott has very interesting ideas on how to mark students' written work, principles and practice, right? And this is something we need to, when we are going to ask a task of our students, especially a written task, right? We need to think how we're going to actually mark this written work. Is it going to be, for example, an assessment that is semi-formative, which is sort of like a process? You're not going to evaluate as a final mark or a final grade, but you're going to evaluate the process of production. Is it a formative assessment, as in like, okay, this is going to be a text that I'm going to ask my students, and it's going to be worth points, like points for the final product, right? Or is it going to be like, it's going to be just, I just want them to write this, but I'm not going to assess, I'm just going to use it as an exercise, right? So what kinds of tasks are you going to fill or fit in each of these, right? What about the correction that you're going to give? Is it going to be direct, right? what's direct correction? It is like when you go there and you actually point all the mistakes or all the inconsistencies or all the problematic things, and you provide the student with the correct form. So this is direct, right? And then we have to ask ourselves how effective it is. Are the students going to pay attention when they receive the feedback, right? Or is my correction going to be more indirect? Some teachers, they choose to sort of like only mark, as in underline what they think could be improved, and then the student has to go there and rewrite the work and analyze it. Or some teachers choose to code their correction, and they give like P for punctuation, but they don't give the correct answer, but they show up the punctuation is the problem, or the vocabulary is the problem, or wrong verb tense, right? Something like that. And then the student has to go over the text and has to think and perhaps give another version of the text, right? So this is another way of indirect correction. You could ask questions along the text, or like you could give suggestions, but not direct, not providing the correct information, but asking questions, trying to lead your students to get to a better structure, or perhaps if the thematic progression is not so good, right? So when you make a writing task, you should think about all of these details. It is important, right? How you're going to actually provide the feedback. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but you need to decide, right? Like, for example, the lesson plans that you have posted or are going to post. Remember, you have until Sunday to post the lesson plan on the experiential function, right? What did I do? How am I going to do? Oh, this is going to be a formative assessment because it's going to be part of your evaluation of the semester. I'm going to give you direct correction, right? I'm going to point to you where you can improve, but I'm also going to mix a little bit with indirect correction. So I will return, right? Once the deadline is over, I will check them and I will return them to you with possible comments. And then if you want also, if you want, you can return to me with the possible improvements. And this is what I'm going to consider, right? So it is going to be a process thing as well, right? So this is just an example of how you should definitely work, like think about when you give a writing task to your students, how are you going to assess it, right? And here he talks about some very interesting things, including feedback, right? So it's important. Any kind of written work that you ask your students should receive some sort of feedback. Tasks, especially written tasks, should never be used just as time fillers, right? We need to give feedbacks to students, and we need to choose how we're going to give feedback individually, in the big group, right? We can get the writing and then perhaps use it without naming the student and showing how they can improve. And this would be a good example to the whole class, right? Without actually naming it was this or that person who did this, right? So this is something that is important. And another thing that I think it is very, very important when you work with writing is genre. You remember what genre is? We worked a little bit with genre in the first class.
It is like the type of discourse that you, in this case, you want your students to produce.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It is those conventionalized forms. Like if someone asks you to write a supermarket list, it's very, very probable that you're not going to write a supermarket list using a lot of connectors, like conjunctions. No, you're going to write it in items. This is the genre of supermarket lists, right? Or if a recipe can have lots of formats, but the genre recipe is very recognized. Or if you read, I don't know, an editorial in a newspaper, right, which is that comment that is a lot of times in the beginning of a magazine or of a journal or of a newspaper, commenting about a topic, right? A chronicle, a novel, a tale. All of these are genres that we're used to getting in contact. Or, for example, warnings on a label of a product. This is another genre, right? So when we work with written work with our students, right, with writing tasks, it is also important to define if that writing task is going to follow a certain genre. A lot of times, we teachers, we tend to elaborate or invent or use a task based on the grammar point. And for example, okay, imagine you're working with future with will, right? Will for predictions. Imagine you're working with this topic with your student. A lot of times, teachers, they ask students to elaborate a task, a writing task, they want students to use will. So write a text about some predictions for your next I don't know, 3 years. Write a text about some predictions for your next 3 years, like a paragraph or 2. What exactly is this working more? Is this privileging more a grammatical construction, or is this actually introducing a kind of genre or asking students to write about a specific genre?
It can be a genre, I think, somehow.
But what genre is it?
You may be writing like an article.
Mm-hmm. Did you tell your students to write an article?
Sorry?
Did you instruct these? If you tell this to your students, are they going to understand that they have to write an article?
Well, not really.
You see, so here in this case, you only provided the topic and hinted more or less at the kind of grammatical construction you want them to use. But if you want to work with written written tasks, and then you want them to actually be inserted in the real life, of course you have to give them a theme and a topic, and sometimes you need to direct them to a specific grammar point you want them to practice, but you also need to provide them with the specific genre that you want them to write. So for example, okay, you could ask them to write a little essay regarding what they intend to do for the next 3 years, or what do they think will happen to education and technology, for example, in the next 3 or 5 or 10 years. So, but then you are asking them to write an essay, right? So, or write a dialogue. Imagine you went to a fortune teller. Write a dialogue about your conversation with the fortune teller. Then you're asking them to write a dialogue, right? So this is what I mean when you are giving your students your like a written task. okay, sometimes we want them to concentrate on a specific whatever verb tense or grammatical construction, but we need to remember that if we don't provide them with a specific genre that they should write, it's very possible that they will be a little bit lost, right? Or write an email, or write a note. And this is something that a lot of course books lately, they have been doing with the written tasks they provide. They work with specific genres, right? So this would be also another tip that I have for you when you work with writing with your students, right? Because working with and then you're thinking, but what does this have to do with functional grammar? It has everything to do with functional grammar, because there will be a class, and it will be, let me just check here. It's not going to be next class, because next class is our evaluation exercise. But I think the next class, which will be, let me see, hold on. Yeah, so next class, the 29, let me share my screen with you again, sorry. I don't know why I turned it off, I'm sorry. Can you see the screen of the schedule? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So you see, okay, today we're working with the textual function, with applying it. Next week, we're going to have that evaluation exercise, right? And then, like, I'm going to repeat for the people who are not here before. I'm going to give you the link to access the questions. I'm going to send you a message on Ava with the link on Monday or Tuesday, right? I'm sorry I didn't manage to do it for today. I had a little bit of a health issue this week. I had some bladder infection, and I was in bed for 2 days. It was not a very good week for me. So I didn't really manage to finish the whole evaluation, but I will do it this weekend, and I'm feeling better. And then I will give you the link on Monday or Tuesday, right? So anyways, and then this is what's going to happen next week. You will, if you want, you can do the exercises during the week and use this class here of the 29th to ask me questions. Or if you prefer, you can use the time of the class to do the exercise as well, and also ask me questions, right? So the next class will be dedicated to this, right? And then if you look on the 5th of June, we're going to work with genre, registers, and textual types, because knowing the difference between these three things is very important for working with grammar functionally, right? Because everything revolves around context of culture, context of situation, and each genre, spoken genre or written genre, has their specific functionality inside the language, right? Then on the 12th, we have a little bit of a holiday. What holiday is this? I don't remember. The 12th of June. Anyone knows?
No idea.
Corpus Christi? I don't know. Is it? I'm not very Catholic, so. But anyways, we have a holiday. And then just to mention for you, on the 19th, we will start working. We will wrap up the functional part. By the way, here on this class here on the 5th, I will also comment on more things regarding what you do on the evaluation, right? On the assessment. And then we will start the second part of the semester, which is the critical discourse analysis. Critical discourse analysis will be strictly connected to all these functions that we have been studying, And we're going to work with this on many classes, right? And then on the 3rd of July, we will have a seminar presentation. And then what is this seminar going to be? And this is going to be our 3rd evaluation. Remember that I told you that we were going to have 3 forms of evaluation this semester. The first one is the lesson plan of experiential function that you should post until Sunday, right? The second one will be this exercise, which will be done next week. And the third and last one will be this seminar. And I'm going to give you the instructions to the seminar right now. Don't worry. This is also posted on Ava for you, okay? So what am I going to ask you to do, right? The seminar is going to be about both interpersonal function and textual function, right? Então, individualmente, vou fazer individual, porque agora nesse modo online é difícil, assim, de trabalhar em dupla, né? Então, individualmente, cada aluno deverá montar 2 atividades didáticas. E aqui não é um lesson plan, people, que nem vocês fizeram no anterior. Não é o lesson plan. É a atividade em si, o exercício, tá? Uma que envolva algum aspecto da função interpessoal e uma que envolva algum aspecto da função textual. Então, as atividades podem ser uma apresentação, um exercício, escrito ou oral, tá? Vocês podem focar num ponto gramatical específico que vocês quiserem, né? Vocês é que vão criar. Então, eu não quero que vocês me apresentem o plano no seminário, no dia 3 de julho, dia 3, agora não me lembro, mas que seja. Dia 3 de julho, tá? Vocês não vão me apresentar um plano de aula, vocês vão apresentar a atividade, como se vocês estivessem aplicando a atividade para nós, tá? Então, vocês não precisam postar nada, eu vou avaliar a apresentação de vocês. Caso alguém saiba que naquele dia não possa estar presente, faça o seguinte, grave um vídeo com o seu celular, apresentando a atividade e me mande, que daí eu boto o vídeo, boto o link lá, boto no YouTube, qualquer coisa, ou coloco ali e apresento o vídeo para a turma, tá? Isso aí. Então, uma atividade para função interpessoal. Aí, o que vocês podem trabalhar? Como que vocês trabalhariam funcionalmente algum aspecto dessa função interpessoal? Pode ser o finite, né? O finite é o quê? Trabalhar com as partes da frase que expressam o tempo, né? O passado, o presente, o futuro. Ou algum tipo de modalização, né? Pode ser os modal verbs, pode ser outras expressões que também modalizem, né? E da função textual? Vou trabalhar com o quê? Vou trabalhar com a identificação de tema e rema, com a questão da progressão temática dentro de um texto. Posso trabalhar também com essa questão das conjunções, dos discourse markers, que são os textual themes. Ou posso trabalhar com interpersonal themes, que efeito que dá nas frases, por exemplo, fazer um exercício para os meus alunos usar coisas como thankfully, fortunately, personally, unfortunately, sei lá, são só ideias, né? Que tipo de efeito de significado que dá na frase fazer isso, né? Então, são só ideias, ok? Então, aqui eu também, lá no Ava, esse eu já botei, tá? Para vocês, isso aqui é uma ideia, tá? Tem esse artigo aqui que é muito legal, ele é até um pouquinho antigo, 1998, mas, e não se assustem, tá? Ele tá escrito em inglês, tá? Ele tem o abstract e o resumo em espanhol, em francês, né? Mas ele tá escrito em inglês. Theorem Patterns in Auto Writing. Então, é bem interessante o que eles colocam aqui, ó. O abstract. The theme and rhyme construct has been widely studied in English over the last few years, proving to be a very important cohesive element at this course level. However, researchers have paid much less attention to this construct and its possible usefulness in second language teaching. This paper's aim is to prove that the notion of theme and rhyme can be very helpful as a tool of instruction for the teacher to evaluate auto writing at the level of the discourse. To address this issue, we have analyzed a sample of 25 student compositions written by Spanish native speakers learning English as a second language in terms of their thematic selection and progression. This empirical analysis has enabled us to uncover several common problems for textual cohesion and coherence in auto writing. Vocês podem dar uma olhada nesse artigo e daqui a pouco tirar alguma inspiração para fazer alguma atividade sobre o seminário. Pode ser uma ajuda, né? Tô só colocando para vocês algumas ideias de onde buscar inspiração para montar essa atividade com a função textual, né? Pode ser uma das coisas que vocês podem ler e vir aqui buscar ajuda. Outro lugar onde vocês podem buscar, e esse livro aqui eu vou postar para vocês, esse material eu vou postar para vocês lá no Ava, tá? Eu tenho que achar ele aqui, seria bem legal se eu achasse, né, as coisas. Eita. Só um minutinho, gente. Esse aqui. Não, não era esse aqui que eu queria. Eita, é o... Eu adoro quando eu escondo as coisas no meu próprio computador, é bem legal. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna find. It is a book. I've used it before with you, but I don't know why I'm not finding it. Hold on. Hold on, people. Mas, Senhor, onde é que tá aquilo, Jesus? I don't know where I put that. Ah, tá aqui. Sorry, I'm gonna put this on Rafa for you. Let me share the screen. So this is a very nice book. I will post there on Ava for you. Okay, you can have this. So functional grammar in the ESL classroom. So for example, sequencing. This is an activity that is very. It's an idea. You know, you don't need. Of course, you're not going to use exactly the same, but you can sort of like adapt something on this specific activity, right? So in sequencing, the learners are presented with a text that has been altered in terms of the sequence of elements, right? So here it's another way of working with textual function, right? So this is another possibility. You can follow this, the ideas they give you here in this specific paragraph. Chapter, right? Transforming. All the book is very interesting, right? Transforming, students' attention is drawn to how different grammatical features are used through the process of transforming a text in a way that makes it more effective or more appropriate for a particular communicative context. So here, guys, you're going to focus on the interpersonal function, right? Because when you touch the idea of appropriateness and different particular communicative contexts, you are working interpersonally. You are working with the interpersonal function, right? So 2 more, suggestions for you: sequencing for the textual function, transforming for the interpersonal function, right? So in this specific material here, right? So like I said, right, you don't need to post anything or deliver anything. I will evaluate the presentation, right? The presentation itself, okay? And this that I'm showing you here, it's there on AVA under the name Instructions for Seminar, right? Clicked on something wrong. I told you I'm a little slow today. Sorry. Okay. Let me stop the presentation here. Okay, guys, so I'm going to give you some time now if you want, because I didn't really give you time for the last 2 the last 2 links here, right? So I'm going to give you time to explore a little bit the link regarding the writing samples, and also if you want to take a look at this article, right? And if you have any questions, I will also be here. And well, basically today that's the material that I had for you. I don't know, would you like to ask any other question or to comment any other thing, regarding the teaching of writing with the idea of the textual function?
Actually, I have a question about our presentation.
Yes, please.
So how long does it have to be like the exercises?
Oh, they don't have, it's more like your criteria, right? Like you can plan something like between each exercise, each activity, you can plan something between 10 and 20 minutes each, right? So the maximum time you can spend presenting is 35 minutes.
Okay.
But anything between 15 and 30 something minutes, right? Because the idea is after that we also, it's not like only you present as in like you show the activity, but not only show the activity, but I would like you also to comment on how the interpersonal function is being covered in this activity, what aspect of it, and how the textual function is being covered in the second activity. And of course, we're going to comment and talk about each activity. It's going to be like a workshop, right? More like sort of like an exchange of ideas for teaching. And of course, guys, while you are preparing, if you want to talk to me about it, if you want to consult me, teacher, do you think this is okay? If you need any guidance, please, contact me. You send me an email, ask me for help. If you want also to schedule a specific talk, a brief talk online, go ahead and tell me, because I'm available for you, right? You're not alone, right? Quoting Michael Jackson, right? So I'm here for you. Yeah, I want you to develop the task, but I want it also to be a process, right? To be something that if you need me, if you need any help, I'm here, okay?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about next week.
Yeah.
How the exercise is going to work?
Mm-hmm.
What I have to do, because I'm kind of lost on all the material that we've been seeing.
Okay. Well, what is gonna happen is this: on Monday or until Tuesday maximum, I'm gonna send you a link. It's gonna be sort of like or a link with a questionnaire, or perhaps a file, right? But I'm trying to put it online because it's gonna be easier for us to see after commenting, right? And you can do the exercise. Of course, you're going to do it alone, right? You're not gonna help each other, because I need to know how much you understood, right? And you can use all your material, Carol. You don't need to go by memory. You can use all the material that you received and that you got throughout the lessons, right? And then you're going to, if it is online, the answers will come automatically to me, right? And then if for any reason, I don't have any, like maybe the internet connection is not so good, and if I give you like a file, I will ask you to fill out the file, the doc file only, right? And then I'm going to ask you to post somewhere on the web folio, okay? But I will send each one of you a message on Ava, so keep track of your Ava there with either the link or the file, right? And then next class, you will either have, like, I will be available to you. And then if you have questions, I will, work with you individually as well. And you can also use the time of the class if you don't have time during the week to do these exercises as well, right?
Okay. Thank you.
No problems. Any other questions about any of the evaluative, tools or?
Just to tell you that I uploaded 2 different archives, 2 different files in the web folio about last activity, because it would be better just to put the PDF alone rather than putting together.
So I should open both, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I will.
One is the lesson plan and the other is the pen.
Okay, that's fine. I will probably have a look at it tomorrow or Sunday.
Right.
Okay, that's good. Perfect.
So thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
And again, if you have any other questions, you let me know, right?
Of course.
Okay. Okay, guys, I'm going to be here if you have any questions, if you want to explore more those links. And if not, wish you a great weekend, right?
For you too.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, right?
Thanks, see you. See you online, actually.
Yeah, see you online. But well, at least we're in contact, right?
Yeah. Bye.
Have a good night then, right?
You too. Bye.
Bye.